I know some stories.
Well, welcome everybody. We're in for a treat today to talk with John Wolf, who all of you in here know. I think I met John Wolf, it was over 25 years ago. And John Belt was, I was in my consulting career, and he was trying to get me to calm down and stay in town more. And he talked me into taking a tiny little studio on Paseo. And it was very narrow. It was next to where Betsy King is now. It wasn't big at all. But he offered me, I've always paid him rent for everything. Always did when he was alive. Before we were married, I was his tenant. And so I rented that space, and I think John was the first show that I had. I think the second show was B.J. White, but I remember this first show, and I bought 3 of the paintings, and they were little paintings of dishes of fiesta ware. And for you all that don't know what fiesta ware were, I think it came about in the 40s or something, and my mother collected where each plate was a different color ceramic. And so you had a turquoise plate, you had red plates, and so in my family with brothers, we fought over whose color was what. And we would settle, and my dad would referee, and we each had a color. And then if a sibling got angry or upset or was exiled by the parents for a while, and they thought they couldn't fight back, the other siblings would steal that color plate. And so there was all this going on at the dinner table sometime. And I hadn't even thought about those dishes, since I went to college and left home and everything. And by the time I got out of college, she was serving everything on floral china. But he came in with these paintings, and I bought 3 of them, which I still have at home hanging. And since then, every show I've had with John, whether it was down there or when I moved here 26 years ago, I'm always surprised at what he does. He is perhaps the biggest example I have of somebody who's constantly changing. And so I never know, and so I book him. I book him without knowing, which is unusual for me to do. And then a few months pass after he's booked out for 2 years or something, and I see him, and I'll say, what are you gonna do for the show? Well, I'm not sure yet. I'll let you know, when I decide. And like these paintings of the stretch canvas, see, I had no idea, because the other thing about John is that every show I think I've ever had for him is a new thing, a new medium. I mean, he might come in with little wooden sculptures, or he might come in with another show you had early on. He was doing great big wooden men, and I remember buying a man standing on a lawnmower, which I still have at home.
That was the Mobile Saints.
That was the Saint series. Yes, he had saints, and then he had bigger than life-size wooden saints that you hang on the wall. And I bought one for John's office, and the lawnmower was for John's office, and I bought the hanging one for my office. And now I've got them both at home. But I never know. I mean, like, this show was a total surprise, and I'll say, what are you doing? Well, I'm working on it. And that's about all I can get out of him. But I trust him implicitly, and I get to be upset with anything he brought in. I've just always been delighted and amazed. But I don't know that I represent another artist who has that much diversity in their body of work and has been able to do that for 25 years. So, what happened in your early life that gave you that brain?
I don't know. Grew up on the farm.
Well, tell them, just give them a little autobiography.
A long time ago, Beth and I were discussing we're the same age, so I'm not gonna give years.
Give or take.
We're in our 40s, right?
Yeah.
Well, born in actually I was born in Texas and shipped right back over the border to Oklahoma. My father and mother were farmers, ranchers. We raised cattle, grew wheat, cotton, a few other things, not much. And the land that we worked with was land that had been drawn for in the lottery by both sets of grandparents. So they'd been down there a long time. It's a part of the state, if you've never been to, it's incredibly flat. Davidson, Oklahoma is the name of the town, and there's hardly anything there now. But on a clear night from Davidson to Granville, which is east, you can see the twinkle of lights 23 miles away. That's how flat it is. My cousin that grew up there as well was in the banking business, and he'd go around from place to place and would give a little bio. He said, yeah, I'm from southwestern Oklahoma, where it's so flat that on a clear day you can see the back of your neck. That's flat. So that's where I grew up. It was a small town, even when I was there, maybe 600. And it's probably less than 200 now. It's like many small towns, slowly fading away. But it was a great place to grow up. I was a good student, not probably because I wanted to be, but my aunt taught 3rd grade, my uncle was on the school board, and my dad's best hunting buddy was the principal. So, I mean, there was no option but to be good. So then I went away to college and things changed a little bit. But I remember as a child, we didn't have a lot of cultural things in that part of the country, but there were traveling plays and things that would show up here, and we always got to go to that. And then my grandmother, Wolf's brother, lived in Tulsa, about a block and a half from Philbrook. So when I was 6, 7, 8, would go with her to Tulsa and would wander through Philbrook. My earliest memory of a painting is at Philbrook Museum. The painting's still there. Alexander Hogue, Mother Earth Laid Bare. You may be familiar with that one. And it was, I'm this tall and like, dang, that's a big painting. But, everything's relative. But I go by and visit Mother Earth every time I get to Tulsa, and it's out. So anyway, I had an interesting childhood, worked on the farm, plowed, rode horses, roped. One time I was a roper. Pretty good. Or the horse did the work. I just kind of hung on. But it was a nice environment to grow up in, very safe. You could go anywhere, it was all good. But along with Philbrook, I do remember a couple of things that piqued my interest, and I'm not even sure where I saw an image of Henry Moore sculptures. Yeah, those are interesting. So I probably got, was it Compton's Encyclopedia? Pull those down.
Or was it Collier's?
There's 2 or 3 different ones. Anyway.
And people would come by, traveling salesmen would come by and sell your parents a set of encyclopedias. You remember that?
But I looked through those and figured out, because it was talking about casting. And I can do that. So I made a piece of styrofoam and then cast it in plaster and got in trouble because I burned the styrofoam up with gasoline, which was maybe not the best choice. Then poured it with concrete. And it was pretty much a dismal failure, but it was like, I want to know how it worked. And that's kind of the way the brain works. How do I do this? What do I have to do? What's the sequence and all that stuff?
Did your parents encourage that?
Yeah.
Did
Except
they buy
when
you
I played
art
with
supplies?
gasoline.
Yeah, but did they buy you
Yeah,
art
I got
supplies and
supplies.
things?
Yeah.
And was there anybody in your family or extended family that was artistic?
My grandmother on the Wolf side had some original art in her home. They were doing things, all the time. Not necessarily painting. There were some China painters, which I have a great deal of respect for. I was never patient enough to do anything like that. But yeah, it was a relatively creative environment that way. Yeah.
And so, when you went to college, did you decide to major in art?
Yes, art and education. I wanted to teach. One of those things, I mean, I know a lot of people that, well, I'm gonna go to college and I think I want to, but I'm not sure. I know I wanna teach. That's what I always wanted to do.
And you taught the most difficult age.
Yeah, that was my favorite group,
I
junior
know.
high.
I know,
7th, 8th, and 9th.
I know, when I met you, you were doing that, and I visited you at the school and everything. And you liked it.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
kids were wild little animals.
Yeah. And they smell bad.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. I think I was there one time when you sent somebody to go get a bath or something.
800 at a time, they get a little fragrant. Yeah, that was my favorite group. They were still innocent enough that they weren't worried about, oh, I'm gonna get to my job so I can make money to pay for car insurance. They didn't do any of that. They were still children that were, moving forward.
And how long did you do that?
35 years.
Yeah.
And then taught some in high school. Carl Albert Junior High and high school were just a block apart. Sometimes I'd be at both places.
Just teaching art?
Just teaching art. And then did adjunct at Rose State for a while. And then for 10 years, Adams State and Alamosa for the watercolor class.
Yeah,
That's in
I
Taos.
remember that,
Yeah.
in Taos,
that
that
was
you
a
would go
week
there in
long.
the summer.
Yeah.
You loved that.
Yeah, it's great fun. Still go, we meet as a group still.
Okay, not as a class, but
Not
as
as a
friends,
class.
yeah. Yeah, I remember some of the work you brought back
Yeah.
from there.
It was great fun.
Well, how do you get an idea for a body of work? What happens? And how do you decide, okay, I'm gonna get out the paints, all right, I need to get wood, or I need to gather branches, or I need to do this?
I guess I'm influenced by almost everything. Nature probably,
Yeah, yeah.
the number one influence.
He grew that leaf in the other
No, I
room
didn't
with the
buy that
flowers.
one.
Huh?
I bought that
You
one.
bought that leaf, and you brought one just like it
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
yeah.
But you grew
No, I didn't grow
you
any
bought
of that.
all of that in
Yeah.
there? It's purchased?
Yes.
Oh,
We don't live in a tropical rainforest here.
but you brought in, because everybody came and got me that day, said, come out here and look at the leaves that John Wolf grew. It was, the big green leaf like that. It's not in most of our backyards. And everybody in the building came and got me to look at the leaf he grew the other day. So I thought you grew this.
No, sorry, disappointing. But no, I like to be in nature. That's where I grew up. I was outside an awful lot as a child, and I still play in the garden a lot. I'm not having things work out particularly well in the studio. I can go pull a weed or two, and it sort of clears everything. And it's amazing if you just sit down and look. Once you can see the colors, the shapes, everything. One of my favorite things I do in the summer, and I haven't very much this year because I live east and we've been swarmed with mosquitoes, so I don't go outside a lot. But in the evening, it's still, it's daylight, and it's starting to turn. You hear all the day noises. It's traffic in the distance, birds and all that. But as the evening progresses and the light starts to go, the colors start to change, and that's amazing in itself. But then the sounds start to change. You go from the day noises into tree frogs. You have tree frogs?
Yes.
And it's almost deafening after an hour or so. It's really interesting to see how everything changes with time and the light and the colors. My house is elevated a little bit, rolls down, and there's woods back behind. And it's so interesting. And that's the first thing I do every morning is get out look out the window back into the woods. And in the winter, how far you can see back in, and we have snow, all those little different values, those real subtle color changes and things. That makes me happy. So, and as far as deciding what I want to do, it may be, stepping outside and the way the light hits something. Well, it's kind of interesting. And I started to doodle. This group of work paintings in here. I had this wonderful plan at one time. You may have done it the same. I'm going to keep this set of drawings in this sketchbook, and then this group will be in one. Yeah. It all is, there may be a grocery list or two in here. This was, where was that other side? These were just a couple of doodles from, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago, just playing with.
But were you thinking
shapes.
of making paintings?
Yeah,
or what?
these were gonna be painting, but just flat.
Yes.
And I did one, and I didn't like it, so. The wonderful thing about painting on panel is, if you don't like it, you get your little random oval sander out, you got a brand new panel in no time. So anyway, that was, and then there was, like, sort of morphed into a couple of different colors.
Swastikas.
With my German face.
Yes.
Then there's tons of things of sculptures, and then, I'm not exactly sure when these turned up again, because I've always got a sketchbook around, and I'm doodling, just, so maybe.
But at some point, you decide,
Yeah.
okay, instead of doing a wooden and metal sculpture of a figure, I'm gonna do a stretched canvas painting. I mean,
There's lots of little changes going on in here. These actually revert back to probably 50-something years ago. I just shot my whole thing a bit 47, didn't
You were in
it?
your twenties.
I had done a couple of things with canvas over forms and thought it was interesting. Then you do something different, wander on to a different direction. I had thought about that several times, and I thought, well, I've got more tools now, saws and all that kind of stuff, and hopefully a little bit more knowledge about how to at least approach these. And that's when I started. And that right in here is the very first initial quick sketch, and that's the piece on the other side of the door there. And it was, having to figure out about how much the fabric will stretch. I did tear one canvas on a corner. I gave it one little tug too much, had to start again. And then I really have enjoyed this because there's so much kind of unknown as I'm going through. The big architectural pieces, paintings, those were planned, and I'd shift a window because I liked it compositionally, change colors, add things, leave things out. These, as I'm moving along, there's more little quick sketches, and most of them are no more than there's some more somewhere. No more than just a couple of lines. Anyway, the fun part has been that unknown part, and you suffer the same thing with ceramics. This could happen, but this could happen as well. So the idea, the shapes kind of appear, and then they get cut out and attached, and you don't really know. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples of what's going to happen when the canvas gets put on, because oops. This is the very first step, panel, and then this excuse me, gets glued on. This is gonna be a series of 4, exactly the same image that has been flipped and turned, and it'll be 4 together. So, from this,
That's the same image, different directions?
yeah, well, it will be. That's the part, this is the design that's pushed forward, this is what's pulled back. So, then you start stretching the canvas. And all of a sudden, a lot of the information goes away, which I think is kind of interesting. It settles everything down a whole lot. It's not that kind of harsh shape. It just becomes more subtle. And that would be this one. And this is the other one. And then after that, we get, stretched and gessoed a couple of times. And then I'm a little picky, anal, whatever you want to call it. The
Very anal,
corners.
very anal.
Very anal. Thank you, Dr. Bell.
The doctor.
Yeah, but the corners, sometimes on canvases, I don't like the way the corners look. So I was pretty impressed with myself, needle and thread. Sewed these babies down, each of them, every corner gets sewn. And then a couple of coats of gesso, and then I go from there. And on the 2 stretched ones, there's a couple of 3 in there that there's a little bit of texture starting to show up. And that's done simply with taping off, layer or 2 of gesso, and then pop the tape off. And then it's still, the whole thing behind all this was making these things relatively subtle. I don't know about everybody else, but in our world right now, things are a little hectic, a little crazy, and I'm really, I think, probably dwelling on that more than I should, but I want things to be calm and quiet. So subtle changes, and that's to the point where I start thinking about color. Color, the majority of those very, very muted colors, again, it's that kind of quiet, calm feeling that I'm hoping for someday. And that's where all these came from. So super subtle colors, except the black and white, that was a high contrast thing, but it also has some texture. And the new ones, I've got ideas, but sometimes I don't know until they start. And it all depends on what's going on that day, I guess. Okay, hit me with another one.
But this is a new thing.
Yeah, I did it 50 years ago.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, nearly 60 years ago.
Okay.
But not on this level. It was a thought back then that I acted on 2 or 3 pieces, and it stuck up there.
Okay, I'm trying to think, before this show, what was, your last show was paintings?
Paintings and sculpture.
And sculpture.
Yeah, it was same 2 rooms.
Same room.
Yeah.
And the paintings, there was a bird,
Yeah, there
an
was
eagle,
crow.
crow.
Just dealing with really familiar things that I saw daily. There's a self-portrait.
Yes.
Paintings and then small sculptures, basically maquettes for larger sculptures. So, Then there was architecture, it goes on with saints and all
Yeah,
that
just
stuff.
talk to him about the Saints. The Saints were great.
They were
So
fun.
everything was good, it's good.
The saints were kind of initiated by, what's the guy's name in California that had the Crystal Cathedral?
Mm-hmm.
It was like
Who
yeah.
was that?
slipping your quarter, bit of prayer, and move on, don't stay long. So it was like,
I know, I remember the Crystal
Yeah.
Theater was on television.
Solar.
Huh?
Solar.
Sure.
Schultz or
Schuler.
Schuler, I think,
It was
Robert
Schuler.
Schuler.
Robert
Yeah,
Schuler.
Robert Schuler.
He had the drive-in
Yes.
cathedral where he preached to the parking
I
lot.
was gonna figure out how to do these saints that were motorized, so, you know, Roger wants a little quick session with the big guy, and he can call up and the saint will roll in and
Just in
roll off.
time.
5 minutes, whatever it takes, you know. So that was kind of a snarky thing about the Crystal Cathedral. Yeah, everything's got some kind of little backstory.
But it's so interesting to me that they're always different and that you're working constantly with different mediums.
I get bored easily. But yeah, it's kind of, I spend part of the year doing three-dimensional and part of the year doing two-dimensional. And these were also something I was thinking about, kind of trying to blend the two. So we get a little bit of three-dimension here, not a lot. It's,
What's your next show?
I don't know, I haven't figured that one out yet. Too much pressure. So that's kind of the story how these kind of came about. Playing mainly. I think it's really important to just kind of play, piddle, and then things happen. I used to get really anxious when I would have a long dry spell where it's like I have no ideas about anything, and it would make me pretty crazy. But then it's like, well, don't need to worry about it.
But
It always comes up.
you're always looking for something unusual or interesting. I mean, you'll, on your windowsills and things in your house,
Yeah.
so he brings in something from the outside. You know, or he sees something in a parking lot or something and he brings an object. And so, you know, the times that I've been there and I'll say, you know, what's that? And then you'll tell me what it is and what it made you think about.
But this series years ago that was in this gallery, the bundles, the big bundle things.
Yes.
That all, I mean, I'd had a kind of quiet spell and I'd play in the garden a lot, and it was fall time, and I was out pulling the stems from old daylilies, because they pop right leaves. I had a handful of them, and I was looking at them with the afternoon light hitting and the shadows and all that. That's kind of interesting. I think I'll put these in a jar and put them in the house. God, you've got too many jars of stuff. No more.
Yeah, you say that every
I
time.
know. I'm very disciplined. But anyway, I put them in the recycle or the compost, and then was thinking about it later and actually dreamed about these limbs and how the shadows, the movement and everything. And that ended up with what? 30-something pieces that was all based on these bundles of stuff.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's strange. I can't explain what happens. Maybe I need a good shrink.
And you use different mediums
Yeah.
and you use tools that most people don't think to use in creating art,
Mhm.
like a saw.
Oh yeah. You gotta have your saws. That's a deal.
But then I could never be an artist because I can't handle a saw,
Well,
you know.
follow the rules, you'll be fine. I can teach you. But I'll get my sign up about not responsible in case of accidents.
Yeah.
No, it's. I used all that stuff as a child. I knew about fixing things and making.
Yeah, you do, and you know how to make
Yeah. So
tools.
that's probably where that came
You make
from.
your own tools sometimes. Well, do any of you all have any questions? Yeah.
I want to start back doing your teaching days. Were you still creating for exhibitions at that particular time?
Not as much. The majority of the work I got done for that 35 years was in the summer. I loved the age group I worked with, but by the time I got home, I wanted to put my feet up, maybe have an adult beverage, and a nap. So,
At what point what was the aha moment that you decided that I've nurtured motivated and inspired a whole generation of young people because I've been a teacher, but now I want to move into another direction to be able to share my talent and art in that way.
Well, I always worked in the summers. That time off in the summer, that was my time.
Right.
And I would draw, have little ideas and stuff along during the year, but really didn't have the time or the energy to act on them. So I always had a lot going on, and I'd do a few shows long, but just not very many. It took too much time.
One last question connected to that. Most people focus on a certain thing. They're either, sculptors, they're ceramic people, they're very focused, but based upon what,
Yeah, I'm gonna go get another totally different kind of art out of another room and bring it in here.
so, well, that's what,
Different from
at what
this.
point did you realize, you know what, I know how to do a lot of things, and
You wanna continue?
I'm a sculptor, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a this. Sound like you did not exactly put yourself into a bubble of being identified or labeled as. When did you realize you knew how to do a lot of things?
I guess I always kind of knew I could do different things if I applied myself. But probably, I've been retired from teaching 21 years.
Ah,
And I have a good friend that I went to college with that I saw probably last time around 20 years ago. We were chatting, and I said, "Are you still painting?" He did really rather realistic Western landscapes, really nice.
Now, see here, this is another
But
show.
I was talking to him, and he said, "Yeah, I'm painting." And I said, "That doesn't sound very enthusiastic."
Now, let's come get a painting.
And he said, "Well,
You're gonna make me work.
every time I would vary from what I originally did, people would go, we like the old stuff better." So I'm still doing, in probably 2026 when he was doing it in 1970. And he said, "It's nothing but a job. I go to the studio and spend 8 hours a day because I have to make a living, and it's a job." And I thought, damn, I don't ever want to do that. I want to be curious about what's going to happen next, thinking about what I may do next. I don't care about what happened. I want to know what's going to happen or from now going forward.
so you were talking about wanting to, give calm and tranquility
Yeah.
to the work that you create. Since you brought another piece out, could you speak to that particular piece and what you want someone to take away from it when they see it, or you would want them to say, I gotta have that, I gotta take it home today? Or do you care?
Not a whole lot of people say that about what I do. I can't say that I care or don't care. If they like it, I'm happy. If they don't, I'm good with that too. It doesn't really bother me one way or the other, because I told Joy many years ago, pretty early on, I determined that I was probably a pretty selfish person with my time and whatever I'm doing. And if it's about what makes me happy, and if I'm enjoying it, thinking I'm doing something that has some validity to it, then that makes me happy. And if they like it, fine. If they don't, that's fine too.
So what is the message behind
This
that?
one, this started off a long time ago.
Here,
I was doing a collaboration piece with a friend of mine, and I made a ceramic figure that was so big. And Marge made a shrine for it. We enshrined this figure. We did several pieces together, but that was the first one. And at that time, the editor of Southwest Art purchased it, which was kind of fun. But anyway, I was thinking about it again. Okay, this is kind of interesting, but what would happen if the figure became the shrine?
Became a what?
Became the shrine itself. So these figures started appearing with openings and had lots of things inside over time. And they changed. This one was, the head and hand is ceramic. The wooden frame around the opening is crepe myrtle, I think, from the garden. little bit of steel. And whatever comes along that I think might look good is open game. It's just like, take that off
Was
the
your
wall.
intention for this piece to have the person that's viewing it to have some type of self-reflection, because that's the kind of energy I'm picking up from it?
Yeah, it's all what's in here. Everything, yeah.
I mean, he's just done over the years so many, and the aesthetic. I mean, the combination of steel, which is a manufactured object, and to pair that with hand carved wood. Every time I look at his things and I'm just always surprised and delighted with what I find. And I've bought so many different kinds of these men over the years.
You got one or two in nearly every series, so.
Yeah.
Is it diversity of his talent what appeals to you in terms of representing him as a gallery owner?
No, not just because he can do different things and does different things. That in itself, it would be interesting, but it would not make it. I might do shows for him, but it doesn't mean that I would buy it, that I would want to live with it. What the things that I buy, that I bought over the years for different things, it's just that I'm kind of in wonder of how, of the sensitivity of what he selected, what it communicates, and then the skill in which he put it together. I mean, this man that I have on a lawnmower, an automatic lawnmower base, and that man, what comes to my shoulder at
Yeah,
least,
he's 5
he's
feet
tall.
probably.
And he's a kind of a saint, and he's got a staff, in his hand, and then his face and everything. It's just very. I think that one is unusual too, but to do this, and then 2 or 3 years later to come back and do what we see in there. See, I don't necessarily would think that was the same artist, or that was the same artist that did this. And so I'm just always, when I book the shows, I pray that it's gonna be fine, because I don't have any idea. And I just tell myself, Joy, it's worked, don't sweat it. And, he'll come in a few months before the show and say, I've had an idea, and I'll say, what's the, well, I don't want to talk about it yet, but I just want you to know I've had an idea. And that's not how I deal with most artists, but to think that person does that and then can do a representative piece of art that's detailed like that bird, it's unusual to find somebody that can work with wood and metal and charcoal and watercolor and crepe burbles.
Really?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think probably you collect pigeon eggs and things
Oh,
too.
yeah.
I'm sure.
Whatever
I'm
you
sure.
find outside is pretty cool.
And it's just, I just think he's an artist who's found his voice.
And he sings in many keys.
Yes, he does. He does. And the different, and then knowing, I might have an idea, but I wouldn't know, what is this material?
MDF.
Well, see, I wouldn't know to go to a store and ask for MDF. I would, maybe I would. I don't know. I'd go to Home Depot and ask them to tell me. Yeah, maybe I'd figure it out. But it's just interesting. It's interesting to me, the skill and the way that his mind works, and how the the cycle of his creativity is so organic. It's not, he's not trying something over and over and over in the studio to make it work. He comes in there, okay, this'll work. And then he takes a porcupine and a baking soda and, whatever. And whatever, and it works. And that's fun. That's fun.
The painting series a lot of it was based on the sky. Things in front of the sky. The self-portrait was my portrait in a old mirror with the sky behind. Everything was reflected. And the thought was, again, that whole thing about what all is happening around, that we all are under the same sky, that commonality. So,
But why that bird?
I have crows that live in my
Scary.
yard, and they're my favorites. They're funny. I have a big pizza pan that I feed them on. So when I go out and I pound that around, and within 4 or 5 minutes, they're all out there. And I can sit outside now, and they'll be no further away than this. They'll look at me, and they're not frightened anymore, and they're interesting to watch.
Are they bringing you gifts?
They have not yet.
They should by now.
Yeah, they should be doing that.
They brought that painting.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, maybe that was the gift.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
now that you've done this series, are you thinking about anything else, or are you just in a stagnant mode?
I'm going to do a few more of these because I've got thoughts going on, and then may go back to more three-dimensional. I've got some ideas. I jump back and forth all
I
the
know you do.
time,
I know
but
you
not
do.
necessarily just in media, but in what I'm thinking about. So probably some more figurative ceramic things.
And they're always, you use found objects, but there's always so much nature.
Yeah. Nature's a big deal.
Well, it is a
Gotta
true
have it.
house.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So I've always admired how when you go to a particular body of your work, how you really flush it out. You really do many of that grouping. How do you know when that particular group is done, or when that inspiration is done?
Oh.
Or is it ever done?
It probably never is totally, but I'll do however many. There's been a few series that had like 6 pieces, and then there's been some that may have had, there was one that had almost 100 pieces.
Wow.
Of the paper ones, the layers and layers of paper, real
Yeah.
monochromatic. There were a lot of those, lots of different sizes. I work on them until I think I've done what I want to do, and then they get put away. And then, but they may reappear. Some of those are that sort of mindset has reappeared in another series in a modified form.
What were the art subjects that you taught over a 30-year period? And are there students that you're still in touch with that have developed their own careers?
Not necessarily in art. Very few were out and became artists. Talked to a young man told me the other day. He's not so young anymore. Lives in Baltimore, and he said, "I've been meaning to do this for a long time. This was like 40 years ago." But he said, I saw a posting on Facebook or something and found out your number. I just wanted to call and say thanks because you made me behave. I was terrible.
Yeah, he was for,
But, he said it influenced me enough that I've gone through my whole life and disciplined, and I thank you for that. I said, well, okay. So that was a good enough. It didn't have to be an artist. And then I've got a couple. One very quiet kid is now an PhD at what's the big hospital in Houston? MD Anderson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I had, for a long time, we had just a small, district, or my area where that fed that school, and real close to Tinker. And somewhere along the lines, they changed things around. So we had a lot of kids from the base. So we had kids from all over
Now,
the
who,
place.
who else taught with you? There was another artist I've had that taught there too, for a little while. Who was it at your school, that they might know?
Nobody I can think of, because
I'll think of them.
Nobody you think of?
Well,
No, Noel Torrey.
Yes.
Noel was at the high school, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
He
Noel-
came in the other day and reminded me of that,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
why
yeah, yeah.
everybody thought, yeah. But he was telling me, when he reminded me of that, he knew your show was coming up,
Yeah.
and then he said, you know, I taught with him, and he was a wonderful teacher.
It was pretty strict, I must
I
admit.
know, I remember that.
But, you had to have it.
I remember coming to the classroom one time, and these two guys were just, like that the whole time I was there. Maybe I scared them, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite out of all this? That would be hard, I would think. A
A
favorite
body of work.
of all these varieties, something you
What I did last.
prefer,
Mhm.
what you did.
Yeah.
last. Figured you'd say.
It's always, maybe because it's freshest on my mind, I don't know. I can look back and see lots of things that I liked, and I see a lot of things that now I would do differently, and just time changes
You
things.
still have time.
Yeah,
Still
exactly.
could do it.
Still got to, yeah. Where's that book? Who has that?
Your
Yeah.
sketchbook.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But give me the papers out. Yeah, please. Thank you. Yeah, it's that whole thing about, it's a partial quote by T.S. Eliot that I think kind of relates into what we're speaking of. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring, we will arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. So, yeah, I like that a lot. And I found another one I thought was kind of fun that I'll share just because, by Leonora Carrington. You don't decide to paint. It's like getting hungry and going to the kitchen to eat. It's a need, not a choice. Yeah.
Okay. If you all have questions, but feel free to move around.
We just have a question and a comment. First of all, thank you so much. You mentioned that you were kind of jealous with your time, but I've had the opposite experience because every time I have a question or something, like, yeah, come to my studio and we can talk about it, and you just bring a lot of inspiration and a lot of solutions for the different projects I worked on. And the question is, what do you do with the stuff that you don't like?
Burning is always a nice option. You can maybe
Kerosene.
paint over it or something. The panels I'd paint over. Sculptures and stuff, a little dash of that gasoline I wasn't supposed to use, and a lighter or whatever, and it's gone. Then all the things that you didn't like and you worried about, it just is gone in smoke. And
So you
no-
keep them as
never thought about it.
reference for future projects or something?
Usually not. Usually not. They just are gone.
He's always picking up new stuff.
Yeah, I've got.
If he hung on to his old stuff, he wouldn't have any windowsills left.
Yeah.
I've cleaned out my garage partially.
Oh,
It
no.
only looks like a partial landfill now with all the change. But
What kind of legacy do you want to leave?
I don't know. If something I do gave somebody joy or made them think, I want people to think about this. That's thinking of that. I never title pieces. I've had people complain before because, this is number 27-224. And, you got all these different things. I don't title because I don't wanna give too much information. When you look at that, when Beth looks at that, somebody back over here looks at it, you're seeing different things through your own eyes, through your own thoughts, that, oh, and that's what it should be. I don't wanna go, standing man with no arm and hand on staff. I mean, it tells everything, and you're done looking at it, done thinking about it in many instances. I don't wanna do that.
That's the heart of the saint. The heart of the saint.
He just named it.
Oh, okay. That's your name. Not mine.
Number 2.
Yeah, number 2. Thank you, Roger. No, I don't want to share too much information. LaFawn one time was, I think here, and they were talking about artist statements, and I don't like to do those either.
He doesn't,
But he said, one of these days I'll be dead, and there won't be anybody around to tell you what you're supposed to think that you're looking at. And I thought, I agree with that. If I go into a studio or a museum and I've seen a few artist statements that look like a slightly condensed version of War and Peace. I'm not reading that. I want to look at the work. The work should tell me everything I need to know or want to know. Yeah.
It's more important that who sees it connects it to something they have
Yeah,
created
exactly.
and own it because of that.
Right. Exactly.
yeah, you'll find, he might, he did his farm series, he might write farm hand.
Yeah.
Or if he had a landscape, he might say land,
Yeah.
That was after I asked him.
Yeah. So all you get's numbers from me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Have you ever been motivated to do research? You mentioned 2 quotes you read to us a minute ago, to do research when you're thinking about developing a new series or taking on something.
Sometimes. I like not to be too influenced by maybe doing too much research. I might look at a little of this, a little of that, but most of it's kind of just right up what's up here. That's a scary thought, isn't it?
No, I think from watching you, that in the 3-dimensional work, the object itself and how you feel about the object influences you more than anything.
Yeah. I think so.
No, because you live with objects and you rearrange objects
And the whole thing I was talking about a while ago with the bundle of the sticks and limbs, I mean, that's compost material. But there's beauty in everything.
there is.
If you stop and take time to look, it's there. Not always easy to see.
But you're a good reader of nature. You study nature.
Yeah,
You do. You see things that other people might not see.
Well, I don't know that that's true, but I don't know it's why, other than I
Probably
take the
because
time.
probably because of how you grew up.
Yeah, but I also take the time to stop and look.
Yeah.
And I think in the world like it is right now, people are so busy running here and there that they don't always slow down a little bit. That's why I like that time of the evening when it's going from daylight to
Mhm.
dark. You just sit there and observe. It's very, very calming, very kind of pretty inspirational for me. Anybody else?
Well, let's just break up and they can come talk to you individually
sure.
if they want to.
Good job. I started to mention them Monday, look alike.